You're not going to believe what the British government's up to now. Here on YouTube, on social media, it's all about freedom to choose, right? Well, apparently, not for very long, because they're debating in Westminster right now how to legally regulate YouTube and control what YouTube prioritizes when it puts things on your feed. And it's not just YouTube, it's TikTok and the other platforms as well. Any social media. The plan is to bring in legislation to regulate social media so they have no choice but to prioritize the BBC and other mainstream traditional network broadcasting companies, and to prioritize them over every other YouTube channel. They're planning to make it the law that here on YouTube, you, the viewer, who will likely end up having to buy a TV license to watch YouTube after they finish this as well, will literally be subjected to the BBC on your homepage every time you launch the YouTube app. So let's break down exactly how this is happening, and I'll point you to exactly the place you need to go to have your say and hopefully put a stop to this before it starts. And it's not just me, lots of other YouTubers are going to be saying this because it's come straight from YouTube themselves. We need to put a stop to it before YouTube becomes legally obliged to peddle state-sponsored media. Now, I started this channel to help cut through biased broadcasting shows, BBC, and keep my very valued viewers informed on developments that actually affect you on a day-to-day basis. And let me tell you right now, this is going to affect everybody in the whole entire UK who enjoys watching YouTube. Just think about why you come to YouTube in the first place. You open the app because you want freedom to choose. You want to be able to select for yourself what you want to watch. And you want to be able to choose who you get your information from. If you want to open the app to find out how to fix your car or how to do something else, you want to be able to open it, type into the search box what you're looking for, and then find that information. What you don't need is half a dozen news channels, probably broadcasting live, which again means you're going to need a license, popping up before you get a chance to put anything in your search box. You come here to escape the curated state-sponsored media and the approved narratives of the legacy broadcasting channels. But the government is moving the goalpost completely, and they are preparing a quiet, legal raid on the very algorithm that keeps media like YouTube alive. So let's be completely honest about what's happening behind the scenes in Westminster. The establishment's completely lost its grip on being able to control the narrative, and this is their desperate way of taking it back. For decades, the political elite could control the public opinion, simply by influencing a couple of media stations. A little poke here, a little nod there, and the relevant television networks broadcast what they're told to do, for fear of injunctions or prosecutions for revealing state secrets, or risking national security. And as far as us, Joe Public, were concerned, if it wasn't on the 6 o'clock news or the 10 o'clock news, as far as we were concerned, it didn't matter. But the internet completely destroyed that. It changed everything totally. Millions of everyday people across the UK, especially the younger generation, have completely cut the cord. They don't watch any television anymore. Over 70% of video time for young people nowadays is spent on video sharing platforms like YouTube, which incidentally has become the #1 destination, which is exactly why the BBC have flooded YouTube with BBC channels. The government's absolutely terrified of this shift. They now know that they can't make you watch BBC on a traditional television anymore, because most people do stream stuff. And no matter how much they lecture the public, and how much they chase you for TV licensing fees, and how many threats they make, the general public are literally switching off. We're learning to make our own choices and decisions. So what's their solution? Since they can't force you to tune into their broadcasts anymore, they're going to force social media giants to peddle their state-sponsored news straight into your feeds. So whenever you open social media, you're going to get what they want you to see. Now, to understand why this is so dangerous, we have to look closely again at how the BBC is actually run. The public is constantly told that the broadcaster is completely independent and impartial and totally detached from the state. However, let's look at the structure of the BBC. Under the terms of the Royal Charter, which gives the BBC its authority and pure existence, the governance of the corporation lies with the BBC board. And how, I hear you asking, do people get onto the board? Well, the chairman of the BBC, along with non-executive directors representing the whole of the UK, are all public appointments, generally speaking, under direct recommendation of government ministers. If it wasn't controlled by the government, why has the BBC just appointed Matt Britton, a former Google employee, as their Director General? Plus, the people sitting at the very top of the broadcaster, setting editorial directions and contributing towards executive decisions, are political appointees. So there are politicians sat on the board of the BBC. Yes, it's been brought up that they need to be removed and needs to be totally independent, but it hasn't happened yet. And there's a good chance if the government get their way, it won't happen either. So you do have to ask yourself the ultimate question. Is it purely to manipulate the media with state control and feed government-approved narratives to the public through news bulletins and then make us pay for it? Let's face it, if the government can appoint the leadership of the broadcaster and then turn around and pass a law forcing platforms to display their content, and in doing so promote that broadcaster's content in front of everybody else's on YouTube and other channels, that is most definitely not an open marketplace for ideas and content creators. That is state-influenced monopoly of broadcast information, pure and simple. Now, if you think this sounds like speculation, you must have noticed the screen to my right. That is the government source for the green paper that's out for consultation right now. And I'll put the link on the screen and in the description as well. You will find the brand new green paper just launched, presented to Parliament by the Minister for Creative Industries, Media and Arts, Ian Murray, by command of His Majesty. It's titled, ironically, Watch This Space, a new strategic direction for UK media. And we know exactly whose strategy it's an aid of, don't we? Our Culture Secretary, Lisa Nandy, has previously gone on record saying that the BBC is just as important to British democracy as the NHS is to public health. And now the government's pushing a massive policy shift to grant the BBC a permanent charter, ensuring it can't easily be dismantled or defunded by future parliaments. But it gets worse. Hidden inside this newly formed green paper, there is a section exploring legislative options. This is to combat what they call disinformation and algorithmic curation. The government is explicitly proposing an online prominence framework that would legally require video sharing platforms like YouTube, because yes, they specifically name YouTube, to give mandatory prominence and discoverability to public service providers like the BBC and other existing television networks. I bet the BBC's pushed the most though, eh? Now this is obviously a massive restriction of freedom of choice, which is meant to be one of the cornerstones of British democracy, freedom to choose. But by forcing YouTube to legally favour the BBC, the government is indeed overriding your freedom to choose and your personal choice. So this video is my right of protest against massive British government overreach, because it is. It's the state interfering in the media. In a democratic society, the government cannot turn around and say to a broadcaster, such as YouTube, that's an independent company, not even based in the UK really, and try and tell them how to run their own algorithm and control what they show to their customers. And let's face it, it's not like the BBC have been quietly sat in the background. This plan must have been known ages ago, because they started implementing their YouTube First policy a little while ago, didn't they? And expanded their channels all over YouTube. Now they have a massive footprint of almost 100 channels across YouTube globally. They're flooding the platform with their content, a lot of it which will be live. And the government are going to try and force YouTube to push it straight onto your homepage as soon as you launch the app. So you're going to open the app, there's going to be a live BBC broadcast playing, and bang, all of a sudden you are liable for a TV license. So what they're trying to do fundamentally is make sure that the TV license, or whatever they might change it to, is required by everybody who watches YouTube, which is absolutely preposterous. And really, appointing Matt Britton as Director General of the BBC says it all. I have no doubt in his ability to do the job. They literally hired somebody who knows exactly how search engines and algorithms work. They're building their YouTube digital empire because they know the legislation's on its way to make sure that everybody watches it. YouTube's been exceptionally generous over the past few years, featuring channels with low subscriber counts and low view counts on the homepage to give you that bit of a push. But if they're told by law they have to put BBC, ITV or whoever on the homepage, they're going to actually have to take some people off it, in which case it's going to be the small tiny channels. So it's going to affect people's ability to start a YouTube channel. YouTube's algorithm is meant to be neutral. It doesn't decide if you're a good channel or not off its own back. It bases it on public opinion, views and audience retention. It decides what to show you based on what you watch, what you enjoy, what you interact with, and what you give a thumbs up to. If you don't do any of that to the BBC, why should YouTube have to flood your homepage with BBC content? But if the law says they have to, then it's going to be difficult for them not to, because they trap their settings completely seamless. Step 1. Flood YouTube with new BBC channels. Yeah, they've done that. Step 2. Pass a law forcing YouTube to have to promote those BBC channels on your homepage every time you log in. Yeah, they're in the process of doing that. And then comes step 3. They'll either make a broadband levy, an internet connection tax, or some other sort of unavoidable digital streaming tax, which means that if you watch YouTube you're going to have to pay for a TV license. They'll just dress it up as something else. And when you complain and say, well, I don't watch BBC, I don't watch any other live shows, they'll just turn around and say, you watch YouTube and that's got live BBC shows on it along with others. So you have to have a license for it. So make no mistake, that's their game plan. Increase revenue for the BBC, and they're going to use YouTube to do it. It is indeed a direct attack on an open internet, a restriction of free speech by regulating the media, and an existential threat to independent creators who bring you a wider opinion and wider view of lots of topics on a daily basis. However, there is something we might be able to do. If we get enough people that actually go on there and actually complete the public consultation, perhaps the government will listen and perhaps this won't go through. The only thing I do know is if we don't go on there and do it, I'll be back here in a few months' time debating state influence in the media on YouTube and the new digital media tax, or whatever they introduce. But you won't see my video because I'll be buried on the 5th page, because BBC will dominate everything else. So if you enjoy an unbiased YouTube, although I am starting to sound slightly biased against BBC, which I'm not, to be fair, I don't have a problem with BBC. They should just be independent and have to compete on an open market like everybody else, not have the government passing laws to say that they have to be shown and expecting members of the public to pay for them to exist. Netflix don't do that. You have to subscribe. ITVX, you can watch things without even paying. Anyhow, so have your say right now. I'll remind you again, the link's on the screen. It'll also be in the description. It's going to take you a few minutes to fill it out, but please do it for the sake of YouTube and for the sake of freedom of speech and for the sake of freedom to enjoy social media without state interference, and indicate to the government that you want them to keep their hands off of your social media and prevent them meddling with YouTube's algorithms. And share this video with anybody you know who enjoys watching YouTube. At least tell them to go onto the government website and have their say as a response to the Green Paper. We need to wake people up to what's actually happening before all our feeds on social media are rigged by the government. Hit the subscribe button to stay updated with any news stories like this and this as it develops. Don't forget, please share your thoughts in the comments below. Do you think it's fair that the government are doing this? I hope not, because even YouTube don't. Now go and fill out that form. I'll see you in the next one. Stay safe, stay legal, but more importantly, stay informed, especially when it involves YouTube.